Here's an environmental update. I'm going to talk about a glacier, plastic recycling, radiation, and methane really quickly. The first one is from LOE.org, Living on Earth, a show that's on NPR in the Boston area. It's on Sunday mornings. This is the week of July of 2019. Peter Dykstra is a common guest, and he's being interviewed by Bobby Bascom, the host. And they're going to mention the glacier and plastic recycling. So here's Bobby Bascom interviewing Peter Dykstra. Peter's an editor with Environmental Health News, that's ehn.org, and dailyclimate.org. In Iceland, says Peter, there's a glacier called Ökjökull. Ökjökull, I'm sure I'm pronouncing that improperly, better known as OK. It's the first a glacier in Iceland, maybe the first glacier anywhere to completely vanish due to climate change. Scientists have studied the demise of the glacier, and they're going to lay down a plaque with a eulogy. Bascom asks, what does the plaque say? Here it is. OK is the first Icelandic glacier to lose its status as a glacier. In the next 200 years, all of our glaciers are expected to follow the same path. This monument is to acknowledge that we know what is happening and what needs to be done. Only you know if we did it. That's the end of the eulogy. The you being the people of the future. And Bobby says, wow, so it's really placing the responsibility squarely on our shoulders today. In the next segment, talking about plastic, Peter Dykstra says, one of our favorite investigators, Sharon Lerner, writes on an Intercept website. She did a piece on the plastics industry going whole hog into the greenwashing phenomenon that the plastic industry is doing. Although the system of plastic recycling in the U.S. is failing, many cities and states continue to collect recycling to maintain the habit of recycling with their citizens. More on that. You'll see why I just said that segment in just a moment. Cities across the country are looking into banning plastic bags and straws, as you probably have heard about, and single-use plastics. How is the plastic industry responding? Dykstra says one of the things that they're doing is a school education campaign about the wonders of plastic recycling. Despite what they're telling the school kids, recycling has turned out to be a very, very disappointing solution, and here's why. In the U.S., at best, it used to be recycling about 9% of its plastic, and since China is not taking our plastics for recycling any longer, that number has gone down to practically zero. So unfortunately, when we're putting plastic into our recycling bins, very little to almost zero of it is actually being recycled. Now in the United States, instead of shipping it overseas, again, China used to take most of it, we're now landfilling plastic instead of recycling it. And now we burn 6 times the amount of plastic that we actually recycle in the country. And the reason for that is we just don't have an infrastructure in the United States to recycle. It was much cheaper for us, if you remember me talking about this in the past, is we would get container ships coming over from China with a lot of product. They would empty the container ship, and then it would be going back to China empty. So then people figured it out, well, let's dump our plastic on there so the cheaper recycling network in China could do that. But a couple of years ago, China said, we don't want your plastic anymore. We've got enough over here. Thank you very much. And that results into the problem. Weather.com did a story here in July of 2019. Brian Dunnigan was the author. And 5 major cities in the U.S. East Coast are now emitting twice as much methane as estimated by the EPA. That's important because methane is the second most abundant greenhouse gas in Earth's atmosphere. The decay of organic material in landfills and leaks from pipes and appliances and incomplete combustion are the 2 main sources of methane emission in cities. Decaying stuff in landfills, leaking elsewhere. Methane is 25 times more effective than carbon dioxide at absorbing infrared radiation from the sun, trapping it in the atmosphere rather than letting it escape back out to space. And atmospheric methane also contributes to ground level ozone pollution. That's why this is a problem. Those issues can be mitigated somewhat, landfills and of course leaky old appliances and piping and so on and so forth. We can start to turn that around. And of course, if we move more towards powering things with solar panels and electricity and so forth, we would need less gas to use for burners and so on and so forth. Okay, the last part I want to talk about, this was very interesting to me, is radiation. Again, from weather.com, the author is Pam Wright. This is July 19th of 2019. Marshall Islands radiation levels are higher than Chernobyl or Fukushima in some areas decades after nuclear testing. Right after World War II, the United States did nuclear bomb testing in the Marshall and around the Marshall Islands. More than 60 years after the last blast in the Marshall Islands, scientists say radiation levels are still dangerously high. A research team from Columbia University measured soil samples, ocean sediment, and a variety of fruit. Concentration of nuclear isotopes on some of the islands were higher than the limit agreed upon by the U.S. and the island nation. We had detonated nearly 70 nuclear bombs in that area after World War II. One of them, called the Castle Bravo bomb, was detonated in 1954. That bomb was 1,000 times more powerful than the bombs that we dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki in Japan, 1,000 times more. So when we think of nuclear radiation disasters and the radiation coming from that, we oftentimes will think of Chernobyl and Fukushima, but we and I forgot about the Marshall Islands until this report. I'm Dr. Scott Fuller.